What if you could take your leadership to the next level, starting today? Whether you're looking for the next big idea or just a spark of inspiration, the Paper Napkin Wisdom newsletter is for you. Either way, you'll want to visit papernapkinwisdom.com and sign up now.
Welcome to Paper Napkin Wisdom, where we share pearls of wisdom shared by some of the world's top entrepreneurs, leaders, and difference makers. Here's your host, Govind Jayaraman.
Hi, my name is Govind Jayaraman, and this is Paper Napkin Wisdom. If this is your first time here, we believe that small ideas actually can turn into big results. So our mission is to capture and share the simple, powerful insights that can transform lives and business. Today, we're exploring the remarkable mindset of Jim Estill, CEO of Danby Appliances and a visionary entrepreneur. Imagine what could happen if you approached every challenge as if it were an opportunity to achieve something monumental. Jim has done just that, transforming his journey from starting a business in the trunk of his car to leading billion-dollar companies. Have you ever wondered how some people turn dreams into big reality? Jim does just that, and he reveals how breaking down massive goals has fueled his success. As you listen, you might find yourself considering how you too can take bold steps toward extraordinary achievements. As you tune in, you may begin to see monumental tasks not as barriers, but as invitations to grow. What are your biggest dreams, and how can you break them into manageable steps? Share your thoughts and takeaway with us on social, and let's listen in with Jim Estill. Jim, welcome to Paper Napkin Wisdom. I'm excited to have you on the show with me.
Well, thanks for having me.
So, Jim, for the audience listening, I saved this. We had a pre-conversation, but Jim was one of my very first mentors in the world, and we randomly ran into each other on the way to a conference in Las Vegas, and very fond memories of the time and all the learning that I've done on the back of your experiences. So thank you for all of those, Jim.
Well, thank you. No, it was, we get along great. It's been a great learning experience for both of us. It's good.
Very kind. So you shared with me a phenomenal paper napkin. I'd love it if you could read it out loud for everyone listening.
So it's monumental tasks are the best kind of tasks.
So why did you choose that to share with me today?
I chose to share that because I find that most people who accomplish great things go after big things. And in the world, many people are going after the little things and therefore not getting to the big things. I've also found it's actually not a lot more work to do something monumental than to do something on a small scale.
That's a really big statement, right? Like, and actually, this is something I remember you telling me years ago, that the big thing is not that much bigger than the small thing. What do you mean by that? Like I think a lot of people are listening, saying, "How does that even work?"
Well, where I use it in business at Danby Appliances, for instance, because I know myself, I can spend my time doing what I'm uniquely suited for and let other people who are uniquely suited do their part of the task. Now, if I was not trying to do something monumental, we're about a $400 million company, then I would end up having to do the bookkeeping. And I am a terrible bookkeeper. And I would have to end up doing a lot of the little things. Or to put it on another scale, my bringing in these 58 Syrian refugee families. I did that on scale using 800 volunteers. And so I tell everybody it's no different than running Danby. I don't actually do anything. I've got people that do things. And because it's being done on scale, people can do things within their unique ability.
How much focus does it take to stay on that unique ability area? Like, and I think that what ends up happening to a lot of us when we're starting is we get spread out all over the place, right?
We totally do. And I'm not a great person to talk about focus because I'm not a very focused person. It's just my personality. I tend to jump from thing to thing, but recognizing that's what I do, I then can figure out how can I get other people to focus on what needs to be done. And many other people are much better at focus than I am. So I don't have any great answers except recognizing something is usually half of the solution.
And then surrounding yourself with people who will support that recognition, right? I mean, you could recognize it all you want, but if you lived on a silo and kept it secret, for example, you wouldn't get the support of others who are good at it.
That's exactly right. That's absolutely right. And the other principle is often the things that I am not uniquely suited for or not good at, there's actually someone who is uniquely suited for that and who actually likes it. Where for me, I'm coming and saying, this is like having root canal to use my example, to do the bookkeeping, where I actually have people who work for me who say, wow, isn't this great? Jim let me do this spreadsheet work all afternoon in a closed, dark office. Isn't this a great job? And I'd be saying, well, yeah, but I'm not going to live. It's not worth me.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I really relate to that. So when you talk about monumental tasks, and you know, you haven't always been the CEO of Danby at $400 million. I mean, you started your first company out the trunk of your car, right?
Yes, absolutely. I started the first company out of the trunk of my car, and I told everybody at the time I was going to run a $100 million company. And then at some point when I got to 75 million, I changed that to 200 million. And then I changed it to 500 million. And then eventually I grew that to 2 billion in sales. So I always thought even 100 million was reasonably big thinking when you're zero, basically doing things out of the trunk of your car. But it's always worked for me. And as I get close to a goal, I tend to increase the goal.
Yeah. So you don't actually wait to achieve the goal. Like, it sounds like as you get close to and you know that you're near enough within shouting distance, you up the ante a little bit, right?
I always do. I actually believe if you have accomplished your goals and you've arrived, then you've started to die. You'll lose your juice. So if I have any flaw around that, I probably don't celebrate my wins. I rather get to my 75 million and say, oh, gee, I want to be 200 million. And so I don't stop when I'm 100 million and pause and whatnot. Now, that said, every morning one habit I have is I get up and I write the things I'm grateful for. And I'm certainly grateful for running the company that I run and having the success that I've been fortunate to have.
Yeah. And I think that gratitude and celebration are maybe different things, right? I mean, especially the material celebration is not something that you relate to at all.
That's exactly right. Oh, you know me for sure. As a matter of fact, wealth is a side effect of business success. I don't pursue it. Like I believe that if you pursue wealth, you likely won't get it. But if you pursue a business passion, wealth can be a side effect of that. Of course, if you run your business well, but part of running a business well is running it with some degree of profit.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what makes it sustainable, right? I mean, I think one of the things that's really remarkable about your paper napkin is that it kind of describes why you went from, you know, the trunk of your car to the goal of 100 million, to the goal of 200 million, to the goal of, you know, and it just grew and grew and grew. And now why you're making the mark you are through Danby. I mean, so describe what Danby is for people listening if they're not familiar with the company.
So Danby Appliances, as the name suggests, we're an appliance company. So we sell compact refrigerators, we sell freezers, we sell air conditioners, which you might not call appliance, but they have a compressor in it. We sell wine coolers, we sell microwaves, we sell some ranges. We're not strong in the ranges and even the microwaves, but we're very strong in refrigeration.
Yeah. So in coming to Danby, how did that happen? How did you go from electronics to Danby?
So I had retired from my computer business and moved to New York, was doing angel capital, did that for about 5 years. My dad got sick, so I moved back to Guelph, which is where I consider myself from. I've lived here all my adult life. And when I retired, of course, I still have all my little boards and stuff like that. And one of the boards I sat on was Danby. And then the CEO resigned. I said, hey, I'll be able to do CEO. And then I decided I'll buy the company. So that's the progression. And other part, since you were talking about mentorship earlier, John Wood, who was the owner of Danby Appliances, was an early mentor of mine. And he's maybe 10 or 15 years older than me. And when I was running my little business, and I only had 10 or 20 employees, he had 1,000 employees. And he was gracious enough to, talk to me and return my calls and have tea. And so he was one of my longtime mentors. And so it was kind of a natural progression, because the one thing that gets everybody in the end is everybody does get older.
Yeah. And I think that also what's interesting about where you are now in Danby is it's kind of like where all of your business started was something a little unconventional given where you are, right? I mean, an appliance company doesn't seem like something that would thrive in Ontario right now or in North America. I mean, everybody's thinking about these things coming from somewhere else, right?
Right. I mean, we do have plants in China and Mexico and the United States, of course. But yes, at heart, we're an appliance company. And moving from technology to appliances, one of my goals here is to apply what I've learned in technology businesses to a smokestack industry. So bringing in some of the things around speed, responsiveness, and that's just amazing low-hanging fruit, because before I arrived here, it was sort of, we're going to bring out another model. That'll be 2 years from now. And of course, technology business is 2 years. As a matter of fact, I would look through the aged inventory and say, wow, this thing's over 3 months old. What do we do? Do we put it in the dumpster, or do we liquidate it? And they say, 3 months old, it'll be good for another year. And I'm thinking, no, I don't want a laptop that's 5 years old, but a refrigerator is kind of a refrigerator.
Yeah, that's amazing, right? The thing that in I think this monumental task thing is a really big thing, because you quickly quipped about being on a few little boards, and then mentioned the $400 million Danby company on which you sat, and obviously continue to sit, considering that it's yours now. But you've had a track record all the way through of being involved in companies that shifted the landscape of whatever industry you're in, including RIM and others. Like, is that part of your focus around monumental tasks and focusing on the big thing?
I would say yes. If you're going to do something big, you do have to some extent, define your market and figure out what your competitive advantages are. When I was in the technology business, I was basically a distributor, buying and selling other people's stuff. And now Danby is in a similar situation. We're selling through the big box stores, Costco, Home Depot, Lowe's, stuff like that, as well as through the independent appliance stores. So, yeah, I mean, my goal is to grow. I believe growth is inspirational for the staff. Growth helps drive efficiency into a business. And I guess I don't know how to not grow.
Yeah, I remember one of the things you early taught me was that if everything tends towards bankruptcy, like every company tends towards bankruptcy, and you have to actually intentionally grow, otherwise you're dying automatically.
That's exactly right. And I think I learned that from the technology business. So our model was we grow 20% more per year, but then add 10% more staff. And that worked great for many, many, many years as a model, because that's absorbable. Now, once in a while we grow by 50% or 100%. The challenge there is our systems would break and our people would be too new, and the integration and everything. And now in Danby, I don't expect I'll be a 20% growth company. We'll be reasonably slow growth, probably around 10%. So it's not That's our current pace and market.
Yeah. So if I think about this again in terms of the goal setting exercise that you have, Jim, that you're setting these big goals and then resetting them before as they become near, and then resetting them again. One of the things that I'm struck by was, again, this notion around wealth and accumulation of wealth not being the target, and then these huge growth numbers. What is the mental game between the sustainability and profitability of companies and the humility that you have as an individual? Because this is part of a bigger play for you.
Well, I guess you have to look back at your purpose. If you can determine your purpose, you'll have much more happiness in life. And I believe my purpose is to help as many people as possible achieve their greatest potential. And having some money helps me do that. Also, when you're in business, your business actually needs money. I mean, you can calculate what your working capital requirement is, but a business that doesn't generate some money can't grow, can't sustain itself, and can't take a hit if another recession comes around, which it will, if interest rates spike, if external economies change. You need to be able to have a little bit of a profitable company, or you're not sustainable.
So in the land of monumental tasks, right? So you say monumental tasks are the best kind of tasks. What kind of tasks are on your table right now? What are you thinking about? What are you focused on?
So I would say if you look at monumental goals, and that tends to be monumental tasks. The big one for me right now will be growing Danby Appliances to $1 billion. So that is a monumental task. Now, the way I do that is I break that down into 100 or 1,000 little micro tasks, so that I'm not daunted in the morning when I get up and say, wow, I have to sell another $600 million. That's not happening very easy. But $600 million, that's completely doable if I sell 2 million here, 3 million there, 5 million there. You wake up and all of a sudden you've sold an extra 30 million, 40 million, 50 million, 600 million. It all comes together.
Yeah. So breaking down the monumental tasks into smaller pieces also helps you create momentum internally.
That's exactly right. As well, breaking it down into what the different pieces are for different people, and working within their competitive advantage, within their unique ability, allows everyone in the engine to move us forward in their part of the business.
So once you've established the big monumental task, the big monumental goal, right, and then you've broken them down into the tasks, if that's the first thing that you do, what's the next thing that you do when you're approaching these? When you're talking about taking $400 million Danby and going to $1 billion.
So the first thing I do is I make sure the core is strong. 400 million, make sure that's strong. And of course, you look at little incremental changes to grow that. But then I look at what is adjacent to what we do, and what are some other areas that we can move into. For instance, most of our sales are in North America, including Mexico, and we sell very little internationally. So an adjacent move for us is to go bigger internationally. That's a simple example. Mm-hmm. Another example would be, I've mentioned we do, the compact refrigeration and freezers and stuff. We recently brought out some tabletop appliances, a smoothie blender and a chopper and electric kettle. So that's it's an adjacency. We don't actually make those products. We get them made put the Danby name on it, but it's an adjacent move. But all the time I'm doing this, one of my expressions is fail often, fail fast, fail cheap. So in the event we do this adjacency move into tabletop appliances, it's not like I'm going to lose the company. We only bring in limited quantity. We only try selling, and then we'll find out, gee, this works. Let's put a little bit more resource in it. Or it's a fail often, fail fast, fail cheap. Let's move on. And maybe the diversification is selling more in Europe.
Yeah. So sometimes, like, one of the things that I love about what you're talking about is the adjacent moves, strengthening the core. What's your core? And then look at the logical extensions of that core to either another market like international or another segment like tabletop appliances. But it feels like you're measuring results really quickly, right? Like you're not saying, hey, let's go and look at it 6 months down the road and see what we're doing.
Totally.
It's what's happening now.
Absolutely. I'm a big believer in scorecarding. If you don't want to do it with a formal, lean manufacturing approach, still scorecarding is the way to go. So it's check in. I check in weekly and score and figure out where we stand. And that's a scorecarding system. Usually you'll have 90% of the scores, you're green, you're on track. But you'll have the other 10% that are yellow and red, that these are problem areas that you need to deal with. And if you don't deal with them relatively fast, they'll only get bigger, is my experience. Or sometimes you'll look at it and say, okay, this one's red, we're not going to do it. Because keeping on doing it is an expense, it's a distraction, and many people and companies make a decision not to make a decision. That's making a decision.
Yeah.
So we decide we're not going to do something and just keep it rolling. Then you wake up 5 years later and you're still doing it.
So like, let's think about that for a second. I mean, one of the things that I find in my businesses is that those red flags, those red areas on the spreadsheet, on the scorecard, those are the ones that take up most of our leadership time, right? And not making the green ones darker green.
You're absolutely right. But sometimes your best return is working on something within your unique ability that would be a dark green one. I mean, simple example, we do $400 million in sales, and we do, $60-70 million in freezers. Well, we can do another 30% in freezers. That's $30 million. That's a huge move the needle. Yeah. That could be much bigger than selling some electric kettles. Because how many electric kettles do I have to sell 30 million? And there's already a lot of people in the electric kettle business. So why would they want a Danby electric kettle as opposed to some competitive electric kettle? And what's my unique spot? And now I will tell you, I'm always looking at micro competitive advantages. So
what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean, micro competitive advantages?
So, I'd love to have a totally killer competitive advantage. Like when we were doing BlackBerry, I was one of the founding board members on BlackBerry board, and BlackBerry changed the world. So they're the first ones with email to your, first ones with a smartphone, first ones with email to your hip. That changes the world. But on this micro competitive advantage, using Danby Appliances as an example with the electric kettle, I was out in our shipping department receiving, and we get containers of product in, and I looked, and there was 1.5 feet of air in the top of the container. And we had paid to ship product in. I think that was product coming from China, and I paid to ship that air. So I said, well, what can we put in there? Well, we could put electric kettles. So our poor competitors, they have to pay for shipping. We don't have to pay for shipping. That's competitive advantage. Yeah. And then I looked at it, well, where's the main place these are going to be sold? Well, most of it's going to be sold through Amazon and through Walmart.com and online. And all the competitors are putting everything in a shiny colored box. And when they ship it on Amazon, they have to put it in a brown paper box. Well, that costs them 50 cents, and it costs them another $1 to put it in the box. So they're paying another $1.50 that I'm not paying. So what I've done is I've built a competitive advantage around something that's kind of mundane, but you don't want to go in and compete with us. I mean, you could steal the idea of packaging everything in brown paper so it's ready to sell on e-commerce day one. But and then what we do is we have a simple paper sleeve we put on it for retail that slides over. So if people do need a color box, we still have that, but it's not on most of them, and most of them are sold online.
That's amazing. So again, by being focused on the monumental task and breaking into little pieces, it provides the opportunity to look at that core and say, how do you strengthen the core? Because now, when you're putting kettles in the bottom of that empty space on the fridge, you're making the whole value proposition stronger, right? Like everything gets stronger.
That's exactly right. Now, it's all about the little things. One of the questions I ask myself every time I look at a product or look at what we do is I say, how much would our competitors pay to do this? How long would it take our competitors to have this meeting?
Yeah.
Would our competitors have 15 people in the meeting, or would they have 7? Would their meeting be 3 hours, or would it be an hour? And so I'm always asking that from a cost, speed, everything. What are their competitive advantages? What are their competitive disadvantages? And where can we slide in? And that's the whole goal.
Yeah, and you've never been afraid to take on the really big guy either, right? Like, I mean, I remember one of the times you saying that you like a small, nimble team will beat a big team almost every day.
Yeah, I'm a optimistic entrepreneur. So I actually like being a great distance in size from my bigger competitors. So I don't like competing with another $400 million company. I love competing with a $10 billion company, because a $10 billion company, they won't actually even care about $1 million order. I care about $1 million orders, and I'll do a lot of work for $1 million orders. As a matter of fact, you want pink fridges? I'll ship you pink fridges. We'll make it pink. Where a $10 billion company say, come on, I don't want to, we can't do anything but 10,000 of the same thing or whatever. So being the greater size, and in my business, I have some smallish competitors that do 30 million. Again, they can't take a $5 million order. They're doing 30 million, $5 million would sink them. They don't have the space, they don't have the capacity, they don't have the turnover, may not have the cash. So I love being a great distance in size and then go after the right size business opportunity for my business. And then as we grow, that business size moves up. So when I ended my computer career, we were doing $2 billion in sales. And, you might come to me with a $500,000 sales idea, and I kind of have to say, Govind, I don't think we can do it. $500,000, it's too big an engine and it doesn't move the needle. And we have to focus on things that do 20 million, because even 20 million is only 1%. It's not huge, right?
Yeah. And saying no became a really big part of that for you. Like I remember you in one conversation that you and I had, you were saying that right now I'm just being very vigilant around and you didn't say monumental task at the time, but now I hear it. You were focused on the monumental task, and you're saying no to everything that wasn't going to move that needle for you.
That's exactly right. As a matter of fact, I go through periods of time when I want to focus so much on my big chore, I will not book any calls or meetings. And so I recently got through a period where I said, no, I'm not doing any calls or meetings during this month. And nobody's really offended. And I guess I could bend my rule if I really needed to, but it also separates the important from the not important, because if people really want to do something, they'll come back next month. And what I find when I don't do that, I can end up with my days filled and being very busy and tired at the end of the day and not accomplishing anything.
Okay, so I don't want this call to go without saying this next thing that you did. You said it very quickly that you brought in 58 Syrian refugee families, and you heard a great call to serve, and the way you talked about was really inspiring to me, someone who knows you very well. Why did you do that?
Well, you do the Paper Napkin Wisdom. So I have a lot of little wisdoms that I live by. And one of the things that I have always said in business is do the right thing. And that's a good way for people to figure out, how do you treat your customers? Well, do the right thing. How do you treat your coworkers? Do the right thing. How do you treat your suppliers? Do the right thing. You ship product that's defective? No, do the right thing. And so I kept on saying that for the last few decades. And then I could see what was happening in Syria. And it's a huge humanitarian crisis of a proportion that we haven't seen in our lifetime. And so I just said I didn't want to grow old and say I stood by and did nothing. And it also goes with not doing anything is the same. That's a decision too. So not making a decision is making a decision. So I decided to bring in 50. My number was 50. I've upped it to 58, and I'm now helping another 100 refugees because I kind of got known as the refugee helper guy. But I didn't think it was a big deal. Guelph has a population of 120,000 people. Bring in 50 families, maybe 250 people. It's highly absorbable. And I was just trying to do my little part. And now I also organized it like a business. So I thought, how do you do it on scale? I mean, I can't meet 50 families at the airport and take them out and get their driver's license and their bank account set up and their ESL training. I mean, you can't physically do it. So I have 800 volunteers organized with the director of jobs, director of housing, director of transportation, director of food, director of mentorship. So every family that comes in gets an Arabic-speaking mentor family and 4 or 5 English-speaking mentor families. And then they have checklists and scorecards, just like a business. So the checklists are ride the bus with them, get them a library card, get them a health card, get them a bank account. It's just go through the checklist, and the scorecards are, what do they need? Maybe they need a dentist. Maybe they need more ESL help, more English tutoring. What is it that they need? And just like a business, 90% of the scorecards come in green. Family's adjusting well, kids love school, dad's got a good job, mom's working part-time, everything's good. But then you get the 10% that there's red spots to say, oh, we need to get a psychologist involved. We need to do more ESL or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. So I just want to say there's a whole other conversation that I could have with you about another comment that you made that you felt, but I just want to just put it out there really quickly. I remember about a decade ago, you said something like, I am as wealthy for how I spend money as Bill Gates is right now.
Right.
And you were adamant, and you made the compelling point that you had everything that you needed at that stage, and that you were every bit as wealthy as Bill Gates. What did you mean by that?
Well, if I have enough money that I can live the lifestyle I choose to live, which is quite modest and frugal, for the rest of my life, and anyone else has tens of billions of dollars, you can only eat so much. Matter of fact, you're not supposed to eat too much. You can only do so many things. Fact is, I can do whatever I choose to do, and I won't want for anything. Now, partly that's because I don't want a lot of things. Things actually take time and cause stress. So, I have one home. I don't have 5 homes. I don't have jets. I don't have boats. I don't have toys and stuff. And I don't begrudge other people who want to have that, but I've just chosen a modest lifestyle. And so I am as wealthy, and it drives some of my billionaire friends crazy because they like to show that they're, wealthier, and, they're not wealthier. I mean, they have more money, but look, if I can do anything I want and you can do anything you want, then we're the same.
I love it. Jim, I love that you joined me here today. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you for joining us on this episode. Imagine what could happen if you embraced monumental tasks as opportunities for growth and transformation. Jim, thank you for sharing your invaluable insights and inspiring us to think big and take purposeful actions. Have you ever considered how small steps can lead to extraordinary outcomes? What if breaking down monumental goals into smaller, actionable steps is the key to creating unstoppable momentum? Could surrounding yourself with the right people unlock potential you didn't know you had? How might continuously raising the bar transform your approach to success? What opportunities are waiting for you to discover them by identifying your competitive edge? And can a clear sense of purpose help you stay motivated and leave a lasting legacy? What would it mean for you to take on a monumental task today? I invite you to write down your biggest dream on a paper napkin and share it with us using the hashtag Paper Napkin Wisdom. Imagine the impact of sharing your vision with a community of dreamers and doers. If this episode sparked new ideas for you, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear Jim's message. Together, we can inspire others to turn small ideas into monumental success. Until next time, what's one big task you'll take on today? You're probably already thinking about taking that first step. So let's keep dreaming big, breaking down the impossible, and transforming thoughts into actions. Make it a great day.